Most people believe their life will change when they find the right motivation, the right opportunity, or the right moment to start. They think a new year, a new goal, or a new plan will suddenly create a different future. But here's the truth most people avoid. You cannot build a new life with old habits. If your daily actions stay the same, your results will stay the same. It doesn't matter how big your goals are or how badly you want change. Your habits are quietly shaping your life every single day. And if those habits don't change, your future won't either. Most people believe their life is shaped by the big decisions they make. The moment they choose a career, the moment they set a big goal, the moment they decide they want something better for themselves, those moments feel powerful. They feel like turning points. And in some ways they are important, but they are not the real force that determines the direction of your life. The real force is much quieter, much smaller, and much easier to ignore. It is your habits. The things you do every single day without thinking about them. The routines that repeat themselves so often that they start to feel normal. The patterns that quietly run your life in the background while you focus on bigger dreams. Your habits are not just actions. They are votes for the person you are becoming. Every time you repeat a behavior, you are reinforcing an identity. You are telling your mind, this is who I am. If you wake up and choose distraction over focus, you reinforce the identity of someone who avoids effort. If you delay the work that matters and replace it with comfort, you reinforce the identity of someone who escapes responsibility. If you promise yourself change but continue the same patterns, you reinforce the identity of someone who talks about growth but never truly lives it. And the dangerous part is that none of this feels dramatic in the moment. Habits don't destroy your potential in one day. They shape it slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. One lazy evening doesn't ruin your future. One distracted morning doesn't define your life. But when those moments become patterns, they begin to shape the person you are. This is how identities are built, not through one powerful decision, but through thousands of small, repeated behaviors. Think about someone who is disciplined, that person didn't wake up one morning and magically become disciplined. Discipline was built through repeated actions, waking up when it was uncomfortable, finishing tasks when motivation disappeared, showing up again and again even when progress felt slow. Those actions slowly built an identity. Now imagine the opposite. Someone who constantly delays things. Someone who avoids discomfort. Someone who avoids discomfort, someone who replaces effort with easy distractions. That person didn't wake up and decide to become unproductive either. It happened gradually, through habits repeated so often that they became normal. This is why people often feel stuck in life. They set new goals. They imagine a different future. They promise themselves that things will change, but they underestimate the power of the habits that already exist in their daily life. Those habits are shaping their identity every single day. And identity is powerful because once you believe something about yourself, your behavior begins to follow that belief automatically. If someone believes they are disciplined, they act accordingly. If someone believes they are inconsistent, their actions begin to reflect that belief. This is why habits matter far more than motivation. Motivation is temporary. It appears when something excites you and disappears when things become difficult. Habits are different. They operate even when motivation is gone. They continue when emotions change. They shape your behavior on the days when you don't feel like trying. Your habits create momentum in one direction or another. They either build the life you want or they quietly maintain the life you already have. And this is where many people struggle to understand their situation. They want a different future, but they are still living through the same daily patterns that created their current reality. They want discipline, but their habits reward comfort. They want growth, but their routines support distraction. They want change, but their actions continue to reinforce the same identity. So the real question is not what goals you have. The real question is what habits you repeat every single day, because those habits are shaping your identity far more than your ambitions ever will. And until those habits begin to change, the person you are becoming will continue to look exactly like the person you are today. Many people wait for a powerful moment before they begin to change. They wait for motivation. They wait for inspiration. They wait for a day when they finally feel ready to become the person they imagine themselves to be. And in their mind, that moment will feel different. They imagine waking up one morning with a surge of energy. Suddenly, they will feel focused. Suddenly, they will feel determined. Suddenly, everything will become easier because they finally decided to change. But real change rarely begins that way. In fact, motivation is one of the most unreliable forces in your life. It appears when something excites you, when you watch something inspiring, when you imagine a better future. In those moments, everything feels possible. You feel ready to work harder, to stay disciplined, to finally take control of your life. But that feeling never lasts. Motivation fades when things become uncomfortable. It fades when progress is slow. It fades when distractions appear and the effort required becomes real. And this is exactly where most people fall back into their old habits. They mistake motivation for transformation. They believe the feeling of motivation means they are changing. But the truth is much simpler. Nothing in your life changes until your patterns change. Your patterns are the routines you repeat every day, the behaviors that happen automatically, often without much thought. And these patterns quietly shape the direction of your life. If someone wakes up every day and immediately reaches for their phone, scrolling through distractions before their mind is even awake, that becomes a pattern. If someone constantly delays important work until the last moment, that becomes a pattern. If someone promises themselves they will start tomorrow, and tomorrow turns into next week, that also becomes a pattern. Patterns are powerful because they remove the need for decisions. When something becomes a pattern, you no longer question it. You simply repeat it. It becomes normal. It becomes familiar. It becomes part of your daily life. This is why people often feel trapped inside their own routines. They want to change their life, but their daily patterns are stronger than their intentions. Their habits guide their actions long before motivation has a chance to intervene. And here is the deeper truth that many people avoid. Your life today is not the result of one big decision. It is the result of the patterns you have repeated for years, the way you manage your time, the way you respond to discomfort, the way you handle distractions. All of these patterns create momentum. Some patterns push your life forward. Others quietly hold it in the same place. And the longer those patterns exist, the stronger they become. That is why trying to build a new life while keeping the same habits almost never works. You cannot repeat the same routines and expect a completely different future to appear. A new life requires new patterns. It requires different responses to the moments that normally pull you back into old behavior. When you feel the urge to escape into distraction, the pattern must change. When discomfort appears, the reaction must change. When it is easier to delay something important, the decision must change. This is how transformation actually begins. Not through a dramatic moment of motivation, but through the slow replacement of old patterns with new ones. At first, those changes feel small. Sometimes they feel almost insignificant, but every time you interrupt an old pattern and replace it with a better one, you begin shifting the direction of your life. One new pattern may not seem powerful on its own, but when that pattern repeats tomorrow, and the next day, and the pattern repeats tomorrow, and the next day, it begins to build momentum. And over time, momentum changes everything. Because once new patterns become your normal behavior, the life you once struggled to build slowly becomes the life you live every day. One of the hardest truths about changing your life is realizing that old habits do not disappear just because you decide to become better. Many people believe that once they set a goal or make a strong decision, everything will start moving in the right direction. They think the hardest part is simply deciding to change. But the real challenge begins after that decision, because the habits that shaped your life until now are still there. They are familiar, they are comfortable, and most importantly, they are automatic. Your brain is designed to protect what feels familiar, even if those habits are limiting you, even if they are the reason you feel stuck. Your mind still recognizes them as normal. This is why people often start strong, but slowly return to the same patterns they were trying to escape. At the beginning, everything feels exciting. A new goal brings energy. A new plan creates momentum. You feel focused, determined, and confident that this time things will be different. But after a few days or a few weeks, the excitement begins to fade. The effort starts to feel heavier. Distractions start to look more attractive. The comfort of old routines begins calling you back. And this is where the real battle happens. Old habits don't try to destroy your progress in a dramatic way. They pull you back in small, quiet ways. They whisper things like, just skip today. You can start again tomorrow. One break won't hurt. And those thoughts feel harmless in the moment. Skipping one workout doesn't seem like a big deal. Delaying one task doesn't feel like a major problem. Choosing comfort for one evening feels completely justified. But habits are not shaped by one moment. They are shaped by repeated decisions. When you give in to the same old patterns again and again, those patterns regain their strength. The identity you were trying to build begins to weaken, and the identity you were trying to leave behind quietly returns. This is why so many people feel like they are stuck in a cycle. They try to improve their life. For a short time, they make progress. But eventually, they fall back into the same routines that kept them stuck before. And after experiencing this cycle several times, many people begin to believe something is wrong with them. They think they lack discipline. They think they lack willpower. They start to believe they are simply not the type of person who can truly change. But the real issue is not their potential. The real issue is that they underestimated the power of their old habits. Habits that have been repeated for years are deeply wired into your daily life. They are connected to your environment, your emotions, and your routines. Breaking them requires more than one strong decision. It requires consistent resistance against what feels familiar. And that resistance is uncomfortable. Choosing a new habit means choosing something unfamiliar. It means pushing against the automatic behaviors your brain has learned to repeat. At first, this feels unnatural. It feels like effort. It feels like swimming against a current that constantly tries to pull you back. But this struggle is not a sign that change is impossible. It is a sign that change is actually happening. Every time you refuse to fall back into an old pattern, you weaken its influence over your life. Every time you choose a new behavior instead of the familiar one, you strengthen the identity you are trying to build. The process is not instant. It does not happen in 1 week or one burst of motivation. It happens slowly, through repeated moments where you choose growth instead of comfort, discipline instead of distraction, and progress instead of familiarity. And with time, the habits that once controlled you begin to lose their power. The same patterns that once pulled you backwards start to fade, and the new behaviors you once struggled to maintain begin to feel normal. This is the moment when real transformation begins, when the life you are building no longer feels forced, because the habits supporting it have finally become part of who you are. Here is the final and most critical point for this video. Many people live as though the future is something distant, almost abstract. They think I'll change tomorrow, or next month I'll finally get serious. They believe their future self is a completely separate person, and that decisions made today have little effect on who they will become. But the truth is brutal and unavoidable. Your future self is entirely shaped by the actions, habits, and choices you make right now. Every day you follow old habits. You are voting for the person you are today to remain exactly the same tomorrow. Every choice, no matter how small, contributes to the identity you will carry forward. If you skip a workout, procrastinate, or indulge in comfort at the expense of growth, you are silently reinforcing the same version of yourself that exists now. Change is not something that magically appears. It is built slowly, deliberately, through consistent actions repeated over time. The person you want to become, disciplined, focused, strong, successful, is waiting for you. But that future self will not arrive on its own. You have to create the conditions for that identity to emerge. This is why today matters more than any promise to yourself tomorrow. What you do this morning, this hour, even this minute, is planting seeds for the life you will live years from now. You can think of it like compounding interest. Small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but repeated consistently, they multiply into exponential change. Consider someone who dreams of success but spends each day in distraction. They tell themselves that one day they will be different, yet every choice keeps reinforcing the same patterns. Years pass, and suddenly they look back, realizing that the tomorrow they waited for never came. Their future self is trapped in the same identity they never challenged. Now contrast that with someone who understands the power of the present. They may not see immediate results, but every day they align their habits with the person they want to be. Every day they choose action over comfort, discipline over laziness, and growth over excuses. Their future self is built piece by piece, moment by moment. This is the essence of identity shift. It is the realization that your life is not determined by external circumstances, but by the patterns you follow second. The person you will be is a reflection of the habits you maintain today. And here's the most empowering part. This truth is entirely under your control. You can begin immediately. You can choose to interrupt old patterns, to act differently, to reinforce new habits aligned with your goals. Every choice matters. Every action counts. Transformation is not about waiting for motivation or inspiration. It is not about hoping for circumstances to change. It is about understanding that your future self is literally built by the person you decide to be right now, in this moment, and in every moment after. The challenge is simple but demanding. Refuse to let old habits dictate your future. Take control of your present actions, no matter how small they seem, and commit to consistency. Your identity is not a mystery. Your future is not random. Both are the sum of what you do today. If you internalize this, everything else falls into place. The habits, the discipline, the focus, they are no longer external goals to chase. They are no longer external goals to chase. They are simply the behaviors of the person you are becoming. Starting right now, your future self is waiting. The life you desire is waiting. And it all begins with what you choose to do today.